Well, hello everyone. Today we're going to be looking at the new features from our latest point release, Liberty version 5, build 8.37, which also includes all of the changes from point 36. These releases have some new functionality for everyone, with changes in OPAC, cataloging, circulation, serials, and acquisitions, with a major focus on borrower communications and usage throughout Liberty. So let's get started. You may notice a new option on the bar here, which is called visitor logging. So this is what I call our optimism feature because we built it to give you the ability to capture metrics on how many people were actually coming into the library. So let's see what it looks like. It's pretty straightforward. It is branch oriented and it's set to Lawson's because my user is at that branch. If you have the borrower ID or you invite borrowers to put their own in, you can start there. It would look like this. Then there's verification of the person. That's all it takes. They have been logged. If you see a person who's willing to give you information, but it's not a current borrower, then you log them as a non-user and put in last name, first name, etc., and then submit. So we'll just put in and go ahead and submit that, and you'll see also logged. And finally, if someone has walked in and you just want to count them as an anonymous visitor, all you have to do is click. And that works as many times as you need it to. So how did this come about, and how is this on my OPAC welcome screen, and what else could we do with it? Well, one option would be not to affiliate it with I'm an administrator, so not to affiliate it with staff at all, but rather to create a unique user so that you can set up a station that does nothing but this. So I've done that, and in a minute I'll show you how I did it. And if you log on with a special user, then what you'll see is that you have only the logging. There's no OPAC, there's no staff side, and oh, by the way, this approach or adding it into one of your OPAC roles does not include using a license. So if you're interested in doing logging, this is a really good way to go. Let me show you how this is set up. I'm just going to log in as myself again. We'll go over to the staff side. For those of you with your thinking caps on, I bet you've already figured out this has to do with privileges, and it does. For those of you who work with privileges, you know that every borrower has a user role, and we've actually added a brand new user role called visitor logging, which is connected to a set of privileges of the same name. So I'll just show you those. So any privileges that include OPAC privileges here, these are three new options. And as an administrator, I inherited them, which also says if you'd like to get them off your own screens or staff screens or OPAC screens, all you have to do is go and untick those options again. It's at the very end of the OPAC or search options. So I won't walk you through this, but all I did to show you that special login was to create a borrower and set that borrower's role to the new visitor logging. So that's what we can do with this. Then the next question would be, so that's great. What else can we do? And for what I call icing on the cake, you can also decide to include in this logging any circulation desk usage. Just go to parameter 3053, or any self-circulation usage from our self-circulation area, which is also typically on OPAC. That would be parameter 5509. And let's see where this all comes out. If you look here in branches, because it is counting visitors per branch. And by the way, in a minute, I'm going to tell you something else. So I want you to see that I actually have 11 branches. So here is our new branch visitors. And you can see all of the things that have happened. And there is, of course, a report that appears with the usual options, Excel being the most useful, and so you can get that logging material out. We've also included this in a new report that I'll talk about a little later. So I think this is enough to hopefully get you excited and maybe include things beyond just visitor logging in this new area. Okay, now let's look at a few other things that we have done in OPAC. Let me do a little search here. So some of you, especially if you're logged in as yourself, may know the share button. This is a feature, an option that is privilege bound that often was not given to end users because of these links to social media. By the way, we've just recently renamed this to be copy permalink because that's what it is. We can either do a full URL or a tiny URL and put it into an email, or just grab the link and place it somewhere else. And what it represents, of course, are, in this case, these 21 results. So we have made a change. Let's go look at it. In parameters, which you know are here under management, I actually want to show you a couple of things. If we go over to search, also known as OPAC, and go down to the preferences, there are two parameters that I just want to point out, one old, one new. So the older one is here at 4515, display shortened URL. If this is set to yes, which mine is, when you ask for that email or the permalink, it will be a tiny URL. And that's preferable for a lot of people. So I just wanted to point that out. And this is the brand new option, which is to, in essence, suppress the social media bits of that share display. It is on because it has always been on, so if you want it to go away, you need to come here and edit the parameter and say, no, I really don't want the social media. Save it up, very straightforward. Now let's go back to OPAC and ask for share again, and you will see no social media. So this means that you can then offer it perhaps to a broader range of users, and so we're giving you that new tool. Another thing we've done, let's just change to an advanced search here. You may remember a moment ago I asked you to notice how many branches I had in this system, and there were 11, but we do not see 11 options here. Now, branches have or offices have an interesting history with Liberty, and people have used them in borrower records to identify certain kinds of things affiliated with the welcome screen. And now, since this is a bibliographic search, we have reduced the set so that the only branches you will see here are ones that have physical copies. So we hope that's an improvement that will have value for you. Next thing I want to talk about is a change that we made, again, to make things clearer and more accurate to the setup wizard. So if you ever use the wizard to actually check out or make changes to your privileges, you probably noticed, I'll just pull one of these down, that there were two settings, on and off. But if you're used to working with privileges, because this is just another view of the privileges, there are higher level options that expand into a variety of options, some of which are on and some of which are off. So it was a bit misleading to give you the blank, even though it is unticked at the head when you're looking at full privileges. Now we have added this symbol, which means it's mixed. And if you change it to all on or remove that so that it's all off, that is fine. But if you want to edit the mixed and all of those options aren't here, then just go over to privileges. But we feel that now you can look at the screen and have a more accurate view of what are going on with these privileges. And finally, we added one other thing. Let me just get out of here, which is fine. To the My Portal area for loans. So what we added was an export, and it is in all of the loan categories. And I'm very fond of this feature. I will share. Let me just pick a few things perhaps. Because for my own personal life in my public library, I download this kind of list to my phone because sometimes I can't remember my favorite authors, even if online I'm applying through ebooks. It gives me a full history of what I've read, and I get great value from that. Now, if there's anything interesting about your loan history, it will be reported. I apparently have read things a couple of times. And what we're using for the format of the export are what we've always used for export. So some of these, like RefWorks, come out in a little text file with little abbreviated field names, which is a very vertical display because it's meant to be then imported into RefWorks, and that would be fine. If you just want something very quick and dirty, just use one of the ones that format right on the screen. There's 2 or 3 of them with slight variations, and you can then take that information with you. So another nice little thing that we've done with our OPAC. Off to the staff side. Let's go back to our overview here. And let's go and find a resource. Doesn't really matter which one, I just want to show you something there. Let's just look at this one. So a while ago, we added a very cool feature called Enhance. What this allowed you to do was to designate which of your Z3950 or Z3950 sources would be used to enhance the data in this record. And you've made a lot of choices about what to keep and what to give up. But it did work on the entire record. So we were asked to do a similar thing, but restricted only to authorities. So you still designate your Z source, and now with authorities, it's a pretty straightforward thing. Either you merge, keeping the old and the new, or you overwrite, which means only take the new authorities. You can designate which authorities you want to use to enhance, and multiple choice. Click Enhance. Liberty goes off to your Z source and enhances this record. And like the original Enhance, sometimes it may be that you want to do more than one. So if you grab a couple of things that need this kind of attention, and the usual ways for grabbing resources, I'll just make a small little list here. Then what we can do is use the new Enhance authorities here. And similar to Enhance, the dialog will be the same, but now it will be done in overnight housekeeping, because we really don't know how much work you're asking Liberty to do. And speaking of that, there is now an email that will be sent either to the user who asked for the overnight processing, or if there isn't an email there, to the library email, which is one of your first parameters, that gives you a report of what happened in that overnight processing. All right, off to circulation to look at all of the wonderful communication things that we've added. So let's get a small group of borrowers together so that we can do some things with them. I'm just going to choose everyone in that department, which I know is a little group. And the first thing I'm going to do is show you our new Add Borrower Alerts. So borrower alerts are not new, but this ability to add them to a batch of people is. You can designate that they will pop up on the circulation desk or when people log in their messages area. And of course, here is the message, but the new feature here is to do it in batch. And other things that we're doing, especially given the times, you can now do a bulk extend loan. So anything out to these people will then be due on your designated date, and you can send them the same email that they would get out of circulation desk if they asked for, the email, the loan receipt. So this is a straightforward thing, and hopefully will be very useful. You could alternatively, or for some other groups of people, do a bulk renewal. Now you'll notice there's no date with the bulk renewal because the concept is that here in lending rules you've made a lot of rules about renewals and that Liberty will just obey those rules, but you can still send the email. So that is looking at it from the borrower point of view, but what if you wanted to look at it from just outstanding loans point of view? Then you would just go to your circulation homepage and grab your current loans. And if you wanted to reduce this or look at current due dates, you could use your search. And I'm not going to walk through this because it's identical, but those bulk extend to a specific date and bulk renew for the lending rules on renewal. Those are both available from the loans themselves. All right, let's go back to our borrowers and see what else we can do there. So let's go back to that small list. We could also do a bulk email. Now, this is not new. We've done bulk emails for a while. What is new is that the messages are now in rich text. And if you've developed templates, which are over here in the system area, that you use when you do bulk emails, just to point out those templates are also using rich text. So we just keep beautifying your communications with your borrowers. Okay. Next thing that I'll mention is, I'm not actually going to show you, but in the circulation desk, I was talking a moment before about sending emails to borrowers. That's been an option. If you always do that and you don't want to be bothered by making the selection to do it at the time of the loan, just go to the new parameter 3120 and change it. And then when you click finish out of the circulation desk, the email will go out automatically. Back again to our topics of things you can do with borrowers. Let's go and find a resource here. Let's just go to resources and we'll just pick something from the screen. This is fine. Let's just decide that we wanted to highlight this or a few things. It could be a list. It doesn't need to be just one resource. The thing that we can do now is this cool new feature called email resources. So you would identify who was going to get the email. You can put in individual borrowers, or you could have created a borrower list, especially for some new project or people who have said that they want to look at new things of certain categories. Anything that is the sort of thing that you would do. You have the tools in Liberty to identify the people and to do a search or tagging to get the right group of resources. You would give your email a subject. You would have a little introduction, a little summary. The resources themselves are described by Liberty. And then you would send the email. And that's a nice way in which to really highlight a resource or a group of resources for your users. And as long as we're talking about emails, let's take a quick look at another feature. As you all know, this is the overdues notification areas, but it's not always about overdues. Sometimes it's comments about or notifications about other things, or sometimes it's a gentle reminder before things are due. In any case, if the notification includes the due date, within the data being sent out. Then you can also include an iCal file, which, if opened, of course, will populate their calendar with the due date. So that would be parameter 3131, easy to remember, and that would allow you to enhance your notices so that the due date was actually posted to their calendar. And the final thing is, again, in these days of a different approach to when physical places are open. Traditionally, once you had decided how long a reserved item would be held, at the end of that time period, Liberty would let you know that it was ready to move on to shelf or another borrower. But it always included close days. In this time, if you want to exclude the close days, which is new, then go to parameter 3214, and then it would only count your open days to get to that total of 7 days or 14 days or whatever you have set it for. A bit about reports here in circulation. We've enhanced some old friends a bit. So if we look at something like Who Searched, which is an existing report, let's just look at the example here. So this column for search type would let you know if someone was browsing in OPAC or if they were using their mobile app, for example, and that would get you some interesting additional information. And then, as I mentioned before, I wanted to tell you about this brand new report called the Borrower Engagement Report. It will only show data after you come up on 837, so if you run it too soon, you won't get too much data on it. And the easiest way for me to show it to you, because the example's really only the top of the report, is let me just drag a copy over here so you can see it. I've made it nice and big so you can read it, and as you can tell, I've not had time to do a lot of activity here to show how much borrower engagement has been going on, but you get the idea, and I hope that after you come up on this release, you will run it yourself and grab some of these statistics, which I think will be very interesting for you. You can see the really wide range of things we're tracking now. Okay. Our last stop is over with acquisitions and serials. There are a couple of changes there. The first is here in suppliers. So just as we've allowed you to attach content to pretty much every other data structure, we've now added an attachment to the supplier record. It might be your contract with that supplier or anything else that's relevant to the supplier versus individual resources. And budgets, all of you who use acquisitions, I'm sure, are familiar with budgets. So the fields of the budget record historically are these, and you can also edit it. We've added 3 new fields. You will not see them unless you use Pages to drag them on. So I'll tell you what they are, and if any of them are of interest, go and use Pages, or as always, you can contact support if you need a little help. So the first field is budget applied for, and it's a number field like this. The next would be original budget, and it's another number field, and I think you can understand why these fields could be useful. And the last is a notes field. So even if you are not tracking the history of the budget this year, it might be helpful for you to have a notes field. So just turn on Pages, and I would recommend adding it both to the display, the details here, and also to the edit page so that you can have it in both places. In serials, what we did, let me just find a subscription that I can open up here. So in serials, if you are using desk sets or contents page, once you get, I don't have a good example, but what I really want to show you is the column. So just envision this with lots of borrower names in it. Having branch on this display is new, and we have added that by default for both contents page and desk sets. If you would also like to add in department and or address, which some of you use for things like an office address. Again, our friend pages can be used over here in the system area. Let me pull that up again. So that you can add those in. The concept is that if you want to rearrange this list based on some information that is held in branch or optionally department or address, you'll have that information on the screen so you can more easily arrange your borrowers in these longer lists to match your needs. And the last thing I just want to mention in passing is if you are not hosted by SoftLink and your IT group has its sights on SQL 2019, either for a new implementation or for an upgrade, we are now officially supporting that. So as always, we hope that you and your users get benefit and value from these new Liberty features. And if you have any additional questions or need a bit of help, as always, please contact support.